Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of NRL Supercoach Off the Bench. I'm your host, Ross. Tonight on the podcast, we have Timmy. Welcome, Timmy.
Howdy, boys. How we doing? Good to be back.
And we've got Guy.
How we doing, lads?
And lastly, we've got Daniel, who was replacing Brad today, who's having a bit of a break, and who is from NRL Supercoach Tragic. So if you haven't seen that page before, jump on that page and join the group. The guys also do a podcast on a Tuesday night. Welcome, Daniel.
Cheers, mate. I'm not going to fill the shoes of Brad with his beautiful beard. Might be not quite as good as that, but I'll do my best.
All right, that's great. Thanks for coming on. So just before we start, I just want to have a quick discussion around this All-Stars game with you guys and see what your opinion is, because obviously there's a lot of players pulling out already, and it happens every year with these sort of games. So I'll go to you first, Timmy. What do you think? Do you think that they should just not name these players straight away, knowing that they're going to pull out anyway? I mean, for me, if I'm paying money to go to a game, I want to see these guys play.
Absolutely. The whole idea of the All-Stars concept is to have the best of the best. And what it sort of used to be, or what they tried to make it, was the best of the best that are basically not playing State of Origin, or some of those guys that are, but then from the Indigenous cultures. So look, I understand the reason why they've tried for so long and why they're selling it. And it seems to be a product now which is about as good as I think they're going to get it. But it is really important. People do want to go and see Latrell Mitchell. They do want to go and see, some of the other guys that are supposed to be out there that maybe won't be there. But yeah, look, I like it now with the Indigenous All-Stars versus the Maori All-Stars. And they've tried many other different ways to cut it. But yeah, this seems to be the right format. It's just going to be tough to get all those guys in there. Let's be honest, the clubs are the ones that are paying the fees. So I'm sure the NRL is paying the All-Stars players some kind of figure. I can't imagine it's as much as what they're getting when they're playing State of Origin. I can't imagine it's what they're getting when they used to play City Country. But yeah, look, the clubs are paying for them. If there's any player that's got a slight niggle, I've got no doubt that the head coach at your club is going to knock on the door and go, hey, buddy, look, I'd prefer you to miss this one and miss a little bit of a top-up in your paycheck and look, have you for the next 25, 26 rounds or whatever it is now. So, look, I can understand why they're pulling out. I can understand the pressure on the clubs, but at the same time, the people want to go and see these people play.
Yeah, look, I mean, I get it too. I mean, they don't want injury. That last thing, coach wants his player getting season-ending injury just before the season even starts. I mean, I've seen a couple of ideas around the whole thing of why not play this on grand final day as a lead up to grand final, obviously not including players who are in that grand final, but there'd be enough talent to get a decent 2 teams out of that by just having that on grand final day. What do you think? What about you, Guy?
I quite like the concept. It gives especially for the Indigenous boys, I think not so much for the NRL All-Stars, but more for the Indigenous boys, just to bring about their culture. I love the dry celebrations and the dancing and the all the culture that comes with it. So that's my favourite part of it.
Yeah. You, Dan? What do you think of it?
I love it. Like when they used to have NRL All-Stars versus the Indigenous All-Stars, and I really, really like how they changed it to the Maori All-Stars to the Indigenous All-Stars. I think a much better concept. When it comes to the big players dropping out, yeah, like you said, there's like Cody Walkers and the Latrell Mitchells, who everyone's paying to see. These guys are like I guess they're the ambassadors for the Koori community, and like everyone looks up to them in the Koori community because they're so proud to be Indigenous, and see them out there. They play better games too because they're representing their culture, and it's so good to watch.
Yeah.
But it's also a good option to see some of the young talent coming through as well. So I like to see a happy medium there where there's some young talent coming through as well as some of the guns that we know.
Well, it's very similar to the World Cup that we saw last year, when a lot of the players for New South Wales and not for New South Wales, Australia, opted to play for their countries instead of representing Australia, which is how it should be. As far as I'm concerned, they should be representing their country before, their second country or whatever it would be. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Just next thing I want to touch on. So some good news. We have a sponsor on board. I can't mention who it is yet, but we have a sponsor. We're still waiting for everything to be finalised first, but it's great to have someone on board already. So I'm really rapt about that. which means we will have some prize money and stuff on offer for the overall comps and the head-to-head comps as well. So just jump in those comps. The overall comp is 170834. And don't forget to jump onto the post to put your team name and ranking from last season to get you in the ranked head-to-head competitions as well. So first of all, we're going to this week.
Roscoe, have we explained to the viewers how we're doing the head-to-head comp? Or do you want me to do that?
You can do it if you want.
Yeah, look, so essentially, guys, we've decided we want to try and keep as many viewers happy as we can. So the way that we're going to do things this year, essentially, we've got 4 guys that host the show, Ross, Brad, Guy, and myself. So the way we're actually doing it is pretty much seeding it off where we finished last year. Now, I had a shocker. Brad wasn't much better.
I was worse.
And Guy and Ross went all right. So the way we've sort of done it, we've split it up. We've worked out, right, who finished where in the table. And so we're kind of coming up with a cutoff. So it might be like if you finished in the top, let's just pick a figure. Let's say if you finished in the top 2,000 last year, then you might be up against Brad this year. So the whole idea of it is we want 19 people who are going to join Brad's head-to-head. And then the idea of it being that we'd want 19 different people joining Guy's head-to-head. So you're playing against us. If you, by all means, play in the overall, and you'll see how all 4 of us are going. But for our specific head-to-heads, the idea is that we're looking for 76 different people then that we're trying to keep happy. If we've got the viewers and we've got plenty of people that want to do it, it might then be a case of each of us have 2 leagues and we work it all out. But the whole focus of it is so that everyone gets a crack at playing against us guys, the hosts, in head-to-head comps. So it'll be 19 different people. If you're in Ross's league, you can't be in Brad's, you can't be in Guy's, you can't be in mine. That's the whole idea of it. So we want you guys to send us your how you went last year. We don't care if it was your best season, your worst season, everything in between. But you send us your rank from last year. So that's just simply giving us a screenshot off your phone or your tablet or whatever you're using that's got your last season rank, your team name, so we know you're not lying out your backside just to get in a better team. There's no need to do that. So there's other different things that we're going to try doing this year to try and keep as many people happy as we can. But not only that, just to keep as many people involved in the podcast. Each week, we'll give a bit of a shout out to who did really well this week. Might be who we actually played against, so that all the viewers at some stage should hopefully get their name on the podcast sometime during the season.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That's it should be good. So looking forward to it. All right, so this week we are going to run over forward. So we're going to do the front row and we're going to do the back row. So I am going to start off with the guns. So first up is Joe Tarpany. Comes in at just under 700k. Front row forward. Last season he averaged 66.5 points. He was 14th ranked overall for last season in total points. He's currently owned by 20.3% and has a PPM of 1.3. I currently have him in my side. He's the only gun front row forward that I'm starting with. Any other you guys got him in your team at the moment?
No, not me.
Nope.
I've got no guns as to speak of in terms of price range.
At this stage, I haven't gone that way. I've gone with Ruben Cotter and focusing primarily on the Cowboys draw.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings us to the next one, which actually is Ruben Cotter. So he's 623 400. So he's essentially about 70k less than Tarpany. He averaged 59.3 points last year. Currently owned by 24% and a PPM of 1. I like him myself, but I'm just gonna run with Tarpany, just purely for the fact that I've already got plenty of Cowboys and I don't want to have too many from the same club, obviously because of the buys. So what do you guys think on him, Guy? You pretty keen on Cotter?
I like Cotter. I love him as a player. I think the main thing for me, just in my strategy going middies, all of these guns, it's just kind of watching their minutes and seeing maybe who's dropping and try and pick them up. But I love Cotter, same as Tarpon. I love them both as players, but just their price is a bit too expensive for me.
Yeah. What about you, Dan?
Actually, I'll make my feelings very well heard very soon when it's up to my turn, mate. Just so you know, I'll keep it a surprise. No spoilers here.
And Tim, you said you got him in at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, mate. Look, I'll be honest. He was one of the first players that I actually picked in the preseason. I traded him out, I think, on Tuesday this week, and by Wednesday afternoon he was straight back in. I just think with the Cowboys draw and the way that he played last season, I mean, you can have the argument that it was a breakout season, but let's be honest, it was his first season. Once he got the minutes and he got involved in the game, he did get moved around in different positions throughout the season as well. But I think once they moved him to front row, I think he will be, it's a bit out there to say, but I think eventually he will probably become their 13. I think he'll become what Taumalolo was 3 or 4 years ago. If he keeps progressing at the way that he did last season, I think there's no reason why he can't be the best front rower in the game, or certainly the most versatile anyway.
Yeah. All right, so the next one on the list is
just with Cotter. I would prefer Tarpany if I was to go the two, only because he just doesn't have the ceiling. Like, I think his highest score was an 89 last year with a try, whereas Tarpany can get that just in base alone. His highest without a try was only about mid-70s.
I think Tarpany had 1 or 2 tons last year as well, I'm pretty sure as well. So he's definitely got the upside. His PPM's better as well from last year. All right, so the last front row.
I think I agree with what Guy's saying, and I understand. I think with Tommy Gilbert leaving the Cowboys, I think that there's a chance there that he really steps up though and takes more of a leadership role. I mean, he's only a young fella, and you don't want to put too much pressure on the guy too early. But I think he can really sort of fill that enforcer type role. He's not the biggest bloke on the park, but by all accounts, he's put on a few kegs over this off season as well to try and bulk up and fill more into a front rower. Because let's be real, at the start of last season, he was there as a hooker, and now he's trying to play in the front row. So he's obviously changed his game, but I think he'll get a lot more involved now, that, especially with Tommy Gilbert not being there. But a lot of it's going to come down to minutes. Do they start playing him like a front rower, or do they start playing him in like the Jason Taumalolo role?
Yeah.
And the thing with Tarpanay's PPM was like 1.3, or something ridiculous. So there is a debate whether they can keep that up.
Yeah. All right. So the last one on the Guns front row forward, I've got Payne Haas, 662, 400. He averaged 63 points last season. Currently owned by 16.6% at a PPM of 1. I'm not going to go there, obviously, as I said, but it's a hard one because, especially with all this stuff going around with his mum, the issues he's got with his mum, does that affect his game? I don't know. But he is a proven gun, as we know. We know what he's capable of. He's a tackle busting machine. He's got it all in his game, really. But Dan.
Well, if it wasn't for that, all the stuff happening in the background with his mum and everything, I would pick him over the rest. Not saying that Tarpany's not going to score more or whatever, but as a points per dollar thing, I think Haas would have been my pick out of the 3 just for value. But like you said, there's that stuff in the looming in the background, and I'm going to stay away myself and see how it goes.
Yeah, right.
I'll back that up because of my thoughts are the same. If I was to go a gun at front row, it would be Haas. I just think his 63 or whatever he's priced at from last year has to be his floor. His years before he went 68, 75, 78. So I think it's definitely he definitely won't drop in price. So he's just good point scorer in the front row, and he's more value.
Yeah, Timmy.
Are the three front rowers, are they all priced fairly similar, Roscoe?
Well, Tarpany 700, Cotter at 623, Haas at 662.
Yeah. So he's probably the value pick of the bunch. It's just, I think there's just a little bit too much unknown there. He's missed a bit of preseason. By all accounts, he's back in full-on hardcore training back at the Bronx now. So I think he's tried to put everything behind him. He probably wants to get his mind out of what's going outside of footy and just focus on footy. So look, I love the bloke. I think he's fantastic. He's fantastic for our team. I hope to God he can get back to the heights that he was 18 months ago. If he does, it should hopefully be a good season for the Broncos, as long as he can play the whole season.
Well, Timmy, the next one is actually another Broncos player. It's the first one on my list of second rows, which is Pat Carrigan.
Should we just keep going for the front rows first before we move on?
Oh. Okay, yeah, all right. We'll do that then. Okay, yep. All right, we'll do it that way then. All right, so Guy, you go through the mid front row forward options then.
One other favourable mention I did have in the guns was just Tiim. I thought he was massive last year. He averaged 67. He even put in 80 minutes without a try for 109, which is just insane stuff for a front row forward. So probably wouldn't start with him at the price, but definitely later on if he drops in price, I definitely think he's one to watch. All right, well, we'll start off with the middies. The first one I have on my list, who I think's the most owned, don't quote me on that, Tommy Gilbert, priced at about a 48 average. I actually not the keenest on him. Bit of a wait and watch. He's 18 out of his 22 games last year were over 48 minutes. So it's not like he played ridiculously low minutes. His PPM was 0.8. Yeah, what do you boys think?
I think I'm with the price that he is just going to get those pot along. These are the kind of players that I'm looking at. I haven't got him personally in my team, but these are the kind of players I'm looking at that price range for my front row. And he's pretty safe, like 494. I'm a bit lower that with my price, but it depends on his role as well. The Dolphins. I'm looking here. You got Jesse Bromwich, Jared Wallace, Nichols. A few players there that you're going to fight minutes for. So I like him as a player. I just don't know if he's going to be right for minutes just yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's actually highly owned at 18.4%. I think, to be honest with you, I would probably prefer, and I'm running with Christian Welsh. So I just think he's the better buy for that cheaper. He's actually cheaper too. So you just don't know what Bennett's going to do with that rotation with those forwards. And to be honest with you, I think pretty much most Dolphin players are going to be waiting to see how they go and how they adapt to their positions. So it's a no for me at this stage, just to wait and see how he goes first.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. He's just under 500k, but everyone's sort of talking him as being a starting lock. That's great if he's going to play 70 minutes. But if he's going to play 45, 50 minutes, 55 minutes top, something like that, like a normal front rower, then I don't see the appeal in it myself. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had Tommy Gilbert in and out of my team a few times throughout the preseason. But until I see how he actually plays in the trials over the next couple of weeks, I'm not really sold. I did see an interview with him last night. They played, the Dolphins played up in Gladstone against the Capras. So I tuned in for a little while and they did a bit of an interview with him beforehand. He said he's probably not playing till next trial, maybe not even next week, might be the one after. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how much of a look we're really going to get at him before round one. But yeah, it'll be good. If he gets the minutes, by all means, I think he'll be okay. But I haven't seen enough out of him as a ball player to warrant putting my house on him at number 13.
Well, I don't see him getting more minutes at the Dolphins than what he was getting at the Cowboys. I think it's going to be similar minutes anyway. So for me, I don't even know if he's probably not even going to make you cash either at the end of the day, which is what you want from a sort of a mid player. You want him to make cash where you can upgrade him to a gun at the end of the day, and I don't think that's going to happen with him. I think someone like Welsh is going to be the better option. It's probably going to make you more money too.
I'm a big Welsh fan.
Well, we can segue because we can segue because Welch is the next one on the list. So might as well bring him up. Keep going, Timmy.
Yeah, look, I really like him. It was a massive shame for the Storm that he got injured last season. I was sort of hoping it was going to be his breakout year. I think he's got the potential. He's certainly got the leadership qualities, and it's getting to the point now where it's pretty much his team, the Melbourne Storm, as far as the forward pack goes. So I think this could be a really, really good year for him as long as he comes out of his injury okay. There's a lot of guys that obviously have the season-ending injuries. Like he had it was really early on last season. So, look, he's there's a few unknowns, but if he gets anywhere near his potential, he's just going to be an absolute gun this year.
Yeah. Well, obviously, he only scored the 49 last year in the one game. But before that, 59 average with a PPM of 1.1, and the year before that, a 51 average with a 1.2 PPM. So he's as much better than Gilbert.
And with
PPM.
the forward pack that they've lost, he's gonna have to step up anyway. He's gonna be required to step up. They've got a very young forward pack now that they've lost Bromwich and Kafusi and a few other guys like that. So yeah, he'll need to step up for sure.
His job security is locked in. Whereas Gilbert's not 100%.
Well, if we get the crystal ball out, what are we predicting? About 50 minutes maybe for Welsh, roughly? Do we
I think he'll
think?
get more. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets 60, 65 minutes.
I can see him being that kind of Bromwich of old. He being that leader in the pack now, because Bromwich was the leader of the pack, and he used to get pretty big minutes, around 60, 65 minutes when he was a bit younger and healthier. I can see Welsh taking that role.
Yeah.
I mean, he might not play those minutes to start. They might ease him back in, coming back from a pretty serious injury. But
Yeah, of course.
but I still think he's definitely worth starting though. He will make you the cash.
Because what was he? ACL? ACL injury? Is that what he did?
I can't remember what it was.
55 minutes at his PPM is probably all you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One thing I'll say about him, actually, I'll say one thing about Welch. I owned him in 2021 when he had a bit of a run there, and he wasn't scoring and breaking the world down. But what I know is it's like he owns himself in Supercoach, because he was throwing the most unnecessary offloads all the time and just giving me more points, and I was loving that. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next one on the list, who I've actually got partnered in the front row with Welchie, Daniel Safidi. I'm not as keen on. Similar type of numbers though. Like last year, he only averaged 46, but the year before he went 58, and the year before he went 63. So if you can get anywhere up near that 60 average, there's definitely some money to be made there. Clemmer's leaving. The only issue with him is a person who we're going to touch on in the second row is Adam Elliott. But are you boys keen on Dan Safidi?
I wasn't so much keen on Dan Safidi per se, but I was keen with the fact that Clem was gone. So I was keen to look at that forward pack in Newcastle, and I think either him or even JSAF as well could be potential options.
Yeah.
All similar price, 484K. Yeah. What do you think, Roscoe?
Yeah, I think it's a wait and see for me, but just to see what sort of minutes he's going to play. He'll want to come out and prove a point. I mean, he was a New South Wales Origin gun and hasn't played Origin, and he might get out there this year and prove a point to try and make his way back into the team. But I don't hate it. I just want to see how he goes first. There's a few at Newcastle that I'm pretty keen on this year, but I just want to wait and see what they do with him first.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he goes. It might be a bit of both Safidi boys at this stage should be starting props. So it's going to be really interesting to see, do they share the minutes? Does one brother get more minutes? I think it might be a bit of a pissing contest even between the two of them. So look, I'm really looking forward to that. It might be a bit of a who puts on the biggest shots. It could the whole thing could be a pissing contest. So they could be throwing the kitchen sink at defence. And then much the same in attack. So it's going to be exciting. I'm not necessarily sold on one or the other. I think you could go Jacob for a little bit less cash and probably get the same output, much the same score. It's going to be really interesting to see who gets the most minutes out of the two.
Yeah. And even the next two on the list are in similar boat with just a watch on minutes. Trials aren't the best either for forwards because you don't necessarily know what minutes they'll actually play. But the next one on my list is Luke Thompson, similar to DSAF, although a bit more expensive, 512. He's coming off a 48 average, just over 500K. And the year before in 2021, he averaged 66.5. So do you boys think there's any room for growth this year on Luke Thompson?
I got some numbers on that as well later, so I'll probably skip me. So,
I had him in that 2021 year. That was the year that I finished really well. He killed me at the end because he got suspended at the end and killed me literally. But he look. The only thing that concerns me is that there's been a lot of rumours going around that he's not happy at the club and he's looking to get out, and that worries me. That if a player like that you're going to go out there and prove a point that you're not happy and you want to make make it worthwhile that you want to stay, or you're just going to not give a shit and just not try your best. I don't know. I can't go there. I've said I've only been in the past. Obviously, the advantage is he is a duel, but I can't go there at the moment just with everything going on.
Yes, PPM 1.2, which is good in that year. He played only, I think, between 46 to 68 minutes.
Well, that was the other thing too. His minutes were way down last year to what they were at 2021, because he was playing at least 60 plus minutes that year as well.
Yeah, which makes you think there's a bit of room for growth.
Yeah.
So yeah, one to watch. Next one on my list is in the same boat there. All dual as well. Luke Thompson, even Gilbert, and now the next one, Corey Horsburgh. If he gets the lock spot for Canberra, 505k, I'm actually I actually don't mind him. I had him in the year where he did quite well. I think he was even a cheapie that year. His work rate's quite strong. PPM will be quite good, and he loves an offload, which is great for Supercoach. If any of you boys looked at Corey Horsburgh?
I've got 2 words for you, guy. Ricky Stewart. I do not trust his rotation of his forwards. I can't go there. The only one that I can trust with his minutes is Tarpany. Had a whole 4 pack in that team. If I knew what minutes he was playing every single week or close to it, yes. But just with Ricky Stewart, like he's just too unpredictable with his forwards. Honestly,
let's be honest. Even with Tarpany, like the end of every season, he plays big minutes. The start of every season, he just doesn't get the minutes. Every year he starts slow and just builds and builds and builds. And I think Ricky does that with all his forwards. So that's about the only negative I've got on Tarpany too, for the same reason that Ricky could turn up this week and go, righto, here's the list of 8 forwards and everyone's playing 50 minutes. And that's it. Like there's no method to the madness. It's like someone sits there with the clock, goes 47, 48, 49, righto, you're off, mate. This bloke's on, and that's it. It's like there's no game plan down there with forward rotation at the start of a season. So
they did lose Adam Elliott though, and he averaged quite a few minutes in that pack.
I understand that, but then like CHN's still floating around down there, isn't he? And they he doesn't seem to have a role. Like there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players that they just seem to be bit part players, and it's really hard to trust.
Yeah. All right. Well, last one on my list for front row was Matty Lodge. Some people are keen on him at the Roosters. 512k, similar price for Luke Thompson. He's averaged 49 last year. Years before, he's gone 56, and he's even gone up to 62. There might be a little room for growth. Warrior Hargraves look to be playing less minutes, I think, this year. So, one to keep an eye out with minutes, because he has had a good PPM as well in the past. Although he is susceptible to an injury or suspension. Do you boys like Matty Lodge?
I like him as an SC player, but I just don't think when he was at the Broncos, you had more secure minutes. You know what was going on. Even at the Warriors, a bit more secure. But with the Roosters, these guys are stacked. So I just don't see. And then I know JWH is probably going to get less minutes now, but like I said, I'd have Lodge in a minute if I knew that he was going to be playing even 55 minutes straight, because you've got this pretty good PPM. So.
I think for me, for the 50k less, I'd rather go with Welsh, to be honest with you.
Yeah. If Lindsay Collins was to go down, then it makes it a lot more appealing.
Yeah.
But a couple of other honourable mentions.
The one thing I will say in his favour is TKO is not there anymore. And I think that could bode really well for him. So yeah, look, I am a bit of a fan. I haven't found a way to put him in, but there's a couple of like he's certainly on my watch list. He's on my whiteboard. So yeah, look, he's somebody that I'm really interested in, Matty Lodge. But I could see that he probably can improve this season. Like we said, I think JWH goes down. I think the fact that they're missing TKO, I think bodes really well for him. So I can see some upside, and yeah, he's a bit of a pod that I'm toying with at the moment.
What ownership is he at the moment?
I'd imagine.
Here we go, 1.7. He's 1.7% owned.
I was going to say, I bet
He's
he's
a
not
massive
5%.
pod. Yeah.
There's a couple other honourable mentions just for Brad, who's not with us today. In his PPM articles, Paseka and Royce Hunt both have really strong PPMs of like 1.3 or something around there. So just ones to watch over early season. Over to Timmy now for the Cheaps.
Super, boys and girls. You know how much I love a cheapie. I've got 3 kids, and as much as I live in a nice house, I've got a nice car and everything else. I find every which way I possibly can to save a buck. That's the joys of having 4 kids. Well, 3 live with us, but I've got 4 kids, and yeah, that such is life. Look, I've got 3 main front rower cheapies. Sean Kepi at 274.8 from Manly. Current BE of 26. The Manly's draw, they've got the Dogs, then they've got the bye, Para, Bunnies, Newey, and Panthers. So not the best draw, but not the worst to start with. I've got him currently in my team and have since day dot. My only concern, which I hadn't really thought about much, is I've got him currently as my starting front row up with Cotter. I've got Hetherington and one of my others that I'm going to talk about shortly on my bench, but I hadn't really thought about Kepi missing round 2. So I'm hoping at which stage my other 2 cheapies get off to a flyer. Sean Kepi, boys, I'll go back to Guy because he flicked it this way. I know we were talking last week about Kepi versus Paseka. Are you sold on one or the other yet?
It'll just be who starts. Obviously, you'd like to see Kepi because he is cheaper. But again, Desi's a madman as well. You don't know what he's going to do with the minutes.
Desi's not there anymore.
Desi's not there anymore. It's Seabold.
The Seabold, mate.
Yeah, Seabold. So
I'm not convinced he has any more of an idea.
yeah, he's even worse.
You should know he used to coach your club.
Shut up. That's old news.
But yeah, it's a main just a watch on minutes. But at that price, even if he gets a bench spot, I still think at worst he could just be a slow burn, as most front rower cheapies can. What about you, Roscoe?
I'm really not one that I've looked at, to be honest with you. I'm with you, Guy. I just think it depends on who starts. Put it this way, my cheapies on my bench for front row and second row, I'm not sold on any of them yet until I see who starts and who doesn't. So at this stage, I don't have him in the team, but if he starts, I might have a look at him. But yeah,
as long as he's on a bench spot and he's not in one of your starting 2 spots.
Yeah.
You could even throw Stefano in there as well. I think he's about 300.
Yeah.
Same thing. It just depends on the next.
And the man.
Yeah, you mentioned one thing about the draw being a bit tough. I agree. Obviously, it's a tough draw, but for the forward in the middle rotation, I find that when you play against other teams with big, bulky forwards in the middle, which is what you've just named there, you've got the Bulldogs, Parramatta, South, Newcastle, then Penrith, all in a row. The front mid forward to get higher PPM, more tackles. So that draw actually bodes probably better for the forwards for Manly. So like Paseka or Kepi, either way, whoever gets a starting spot, I believe that they might get some decent tackle points and get some good base up there and make some cash for you.
I think he's there purely as base. I think he floats somewhere around about a point per minute. Surely with the pack that Manly's got now, those 2 boys are both just about guaranteed 50 minutes each. And they might get a little bit more depending on how things go. But surely worst case scenario, Kepi and Paseka are both locked in for about 50, 55 points per week. Or somewhere between 45 and 55 as a worst case scenario. I think you should be able to lock that in. So if you've got them floating up in your front row as starting along with Cotter or Tino or one of the other guys that we've mentioned already, I think you pretty much set and forget for the whole season. But like I said, you will need to keep an eye on that round 2, because obviously if you've got 3 cheapies in your front row, you're going to have to rotate through those guys for round 2. Next one on my list is Franklin Pele, 216.1K for the Dogs, VE of 21. Their draws: Manly, Storm, Tigers, Warriors, Cows, and the Bunnies. I've currently got Franklin on my bench. Again, he's another one that's a little bit up in the air as to how his minutes are going to go. But at that dirt cheap price, I don't think you can go too far wrong. The guy's going to get time. It might only be 40 minutes, but if you got 40 points sitting on your bench, I think you're pretty happy with it from a cheapie. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, I've got him in my team at the moment. He's there. I see he's only 25% owned at the moment, but obviously pending teams and stuff. But I've got him there at the moment just to see what happens with him. But I said, I don't think for that cap price you can go too wrong either. 30, 40 points, you'd be happy with that, even if you don't play him. Just slowly burn you up to some cash and trade him up to another mid or something later down the track.
Yeah, I agree. I think there that with the figures that he should pump out, I think even if he is a slow burn, you'll get a shot there at probably upgrading him to someone that's a midi that's probably dropped a couple of games and then go upwards from there. Dan, what are your thoughts on Franklin Pele?
Yeah, I'm getting with Pele, getting similar vibes to the way Max King played the first half of the season. Getting that high PPM at the start, from the bench, getting that high PPM. I don't see him moving into that role. I think Max King's owned that role now, but I think that, and when he was coming from the bench last year, Max King, he was getting like 55 points alone. So I think Pele, if he gets that bench spot, I've got him in my team. I'll be keeping him until he ripens up for me.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. Guy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, just probably if he gets the bench spot, it'll just probably be a battle between him and Moali, I think, for that 4th front row spot. I think the 3rd one, will be between Stefano or Kepi, because they've got more chance of starting. But that 4th one, like a Pele, he's got Luke Thompson and Max King in front of him, so he's never looking at that starting jersey compared with the others. So, yeah, just a wait and see on team list. What about you, Roscoe?
I've already had my
I agree with what you're saying there, Guy. One that we sort of mentioned very briefly at the end of yours was Udakamano. So he's at 319.2, so he's 100K more expensive than Pele. I think Franklin's going to go. I think Stefano's going to go all right. He was a cracking front rower 18 months ago, and we expected him to do really well last year, but he had a few issues with injuries, and I think that's why he's come back so cheap this season. If he can return to the form that he was 18 months ago, he would be a starting front rower in every team in the comp.
Yep.
So he's a massive unit, hits hard when he's in defence, but also in attack. So he could be anything, that bloke, as long as he stays fit. My last one, Jack Hetherington, 266.6 for the Knights. He's got a current VE of 25. The Knights draw, they have the Warriors, the Tigers, Dolphins, Raiders, Manly, Warriors. I didn't realise that the Knights draw was actually that sweet to start with. That's been kept very quiet by a lot of the other podcasters. And Jared with the Hargraves is he's got to stay on the field. He's a great player when he's on the park, but he has a bit of a brain snap once every 3 weeks and then gets a couple of weeks. So he seems to come back from suspension, does something dumb, and then gets sent again. So the guy's got a rap sheet as long as your arm. But look, as far as cheapies go, if he can snag a second row spot or even get some decent minutes off the bench at 266K, you can't go wrong. Ross?
I've got him in my team at the moment, and I'm seeing a few predicted teams around the traps. Some of them don't even have him in the team at all, and some of them put him off the bench, which is kind of concerns me a bit. But I think I want to wait and see what Newcastle name that first week first, just so I can get a bit of a rough idea whether I'm going to start him or not. But try and work out what sort of minutes he might play. I would presume he's probably going to play back row. Is that correct? They're going to play him in the back row, do we think, or we're going to play him in the front row?
No, it has to be middle. They're stacked in the back row.
Yeah.
I've had a look at it. You know, Tyson Frizzell is going to play big minutes on one edge. Adam Elliott plays big minutes.
Yeah.
Lock. they've got Fitzgibbon and Brodie Jones battling it out for the other edge. You've got Kurt Mann lurking around. I think they're a bit more shorter in the front row. You've got the Safidi boys who will start, but if I've got Dan Safidi, so there's no way I'd have Hetherington because then they're battling each other for minutes.
Yeah.
But the other one who didn't look too bad from Newcastle, who will be there on the bench, is Leo Thompson. He was quite a big body last year, but
he didn't get the minutes, but he had a good PPM.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did last year.
I owned him all year.
I'll have a quick check of that, but I'm pretty sure, he did have a decent PPM.
Yeah. So that's the worry for Hetherington. He could just be a slow burn like Thompson and don't make too much money in the end.
Thompson more a second row last season though than a front row.
He was through the middle, mate. He was through the middle. I owned him in my team, so regrettably, I owned him. But it was good to watch him. Got some good footwork close to the line, so through the middle.
Yeah, he had a PPM of mine. His minutes averaged at about 30, give or take his minutes. So, but you couldn't go him at 315k. I don't think though.
No, it's just more battling minutes in that front row rotation.
Yeah.
So that was my picks anyway, boys. Sean Kepi, Franklin Pele, and Jack Hetherington. I don't think you can go too wrong with any of them, but like we've said with most of these, it's all going to come down to minutes.
All right.
Roscoe.
All right, so we'll go through the second row now. The first one on my list is Cam Murray, 749 200, average 71.2 points last season, currently in 19.7% of teams and PPM of 1.1. I love Cameron Murray as a player. I really love him as a player. I think he just gets out there and he's just a machine, and he just does what he has to do, back tackles, bust. Makes a ton of tackles. He's just everywhere. Everywhere you look on the field, he's there. Great hole runner as well, scores a few tries. But I can't start at someone for that price at 750k in the second row. But he's definitely one I might look at later on down the track for sure. Dan?
Yeah, I've gone for, there's so much value I believe in the second row this year. Obviously, I reckon he's my first target to get to with my cash. I think he's the safest option to have, but I'll be starting with some mid ranges. But yeah, he's the first gun I'll be aiming for.
Yeah, Guy.
Yeah, love him as a player and in Supercoach. Just the price, 750. Like Dan said, there's a lot of value in 2RF. And yeah, hopefully later on in the season. But then he does have Origin and stuff. But yeah, I'd just probably start with him.
Yeah. Timmy?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's going to be interesting to see how the bunnies come out of the blocks to see how Cam Murray goes. If they fly out, like I think they probably will now with Latrell back starting the season with Cody Walker and Lachlan Ilias obviously having another year under his belt. I mean, the bunnies could be anything, but they generally don't seem to hit their straps until mid-season. So it will be good to see. But at the moment, for me, it's probably a no till after Origin.
Yeah, he did have that 1 point game in 1 minute at the end of the season, which did bump him down a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think, Dan?
Yeah.
Sorry, just talking a little bit. My God, sorry guys.
Oh, good.
All right.
One.
So the next one on the list is Pat Carrigan from the Broncos, 662 400, average 63 points last year. Currently 1.6% of 16.6% of teams, I should say, at a PPM of 1 as well. I love Pat Carrigan as a player. I really do. He's just another machine. Just gets in there and does the job. And yeah, I love watching him play. He's just a beast. He really is. And I love what I see from him. And he's another one that I would mind owning at some stage. I've had him in drafts in the past. He's done well for me in drafts. I think he's a really good draft option, for sure. Yeah. So, what do you think about him, Tim? Timmy, okay.
Being the resident Broncos,
bringing the Broncos, man.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Give me the
resident Broncos boys, mate. He is captain in waiting. Absolutely, he's going to be to us what Corey Parker was for a very long time. And I hope we can hold on to Paddy and time down to a very long deal. Look, I think he's fantastic. And the best part about him, he's actually a top bloke and a really smart bloke as well. He's actually an OP1. Just a little bit of trivia there for you. So the bloke is quite switched on. It's not just catch, run, pass, smash. He actually knows how to do a few things as well. So look, I think as far as a player goes, I think if Payne Haas doesn't have the season that he was, I bet Paddy Carrigan fills the bill. And I think that it's his team to run around the park now. As far as that forward pack goes, I think he's a fantastic leader for the club. And like I said, a fantastic bloke. From interviews and everything else that I've seen from him so far through the preseason, he's expecting big things and he's got big targets on himself, big targets for himself, I should say. So look, I think Paddy's in for a big season. It would not surprise me if he finishes or at some stages 750, 800K throughout the year. Might be a bit of a bargain to start with. A lot of it's still obviously dependent on how the Broncos actually go, and that's very much up in the air. But look, if Payne Haas isn't 100% at the start of the season, I think Paddy's going to be busting his ass to fill that void.
So we're expecting him to play where in the front row or at lock, or were you expecting him to play?
I think he'll probably play 13. Yeah. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if he's playing 65, 70 minutes. I don't know if he'll quite get to the 80-minute forward like what Corey Parker was, but it would be fantastic for Supercoach if he can manage to pull that off.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, I see Carrigan as like, a couple of years down the track what Ruben Cotter's going to look like. I think he's more, I think, a bit more ahead of Ruben Cotter with his work rate and his leadership skills. So I haven't got anyone that much money in my second row, but if Haas is ruled out at the start of the season for whatever reason, I'll be getting him in. He is just a machine. Like his tackle rate, he leads the team around and he leads by example too, so he gets those points. So yeah, I'll be all over him if Haas is out, but at this stage, it'd be too much money for me.
Yeah, Guy.
Yeah, not the guy I'm starting with at second row, but I do like him as a player. He's got that strong PPM, just a workhorse. He probably doesn't have the offload or the attack and the ceiling subsequently. I don't think he's ever scored a try. Well, I definitely haven't remembered in the last couple of years.
All of last season without one.
Yeah, he's priced off a 62 average. Even if he gets 70 minutes at a PPM of 1, he's still looking about a 70 average. So he's not going to go up too much. But yeah, he's not a bad option.
Yeah. All right, next one on the list is Angus, Big Angus, 697 100. He averaged 66.3 points last year. Currently only in 12.3% of teams, which is a bit of a pot-ish, I guess. PPM is 0.9. I've owned Angus plenty in the past, and he's never let me down. To be honest with you, he did have a bit of a slow start to the season last year, but came home with an absolute wet sail and scored a few tries. A lot of attacking stats in there too on that edge as well, that lethal edge that he's on. I'm not starting him, but I'm pretty sure at some stage during the season I will own him. I'm dead sure of it. So, Guy?
Yeah, I'm starting with him. I love Angus as a player. My theory with him is their first 2 games I love, the Dolphins and the Warriors, I think it is.
Yep.
I've got him and Teddy, but they do have the bye in round 4. I'll probably hold Teddy, but my thing with Angus is to just try and have him for these opening 2 games, try and get off to a good start. I don't see him going down from a 60-odd BE. The thing I'm liking is I don't think anyone's going to go Maddo at second row because he's suspended for the first 3 games. So I think Angus maybe to Maddo when they do have the bye in round 4 might be a little pod play. Otherwise, it's very easy to go down or to someone around that price. Anyway, you boys like Angus?
That's not bad what you just said then as far as strategy goes, Guy, because that's been my biggest concern. I played around this week because I've got Cheese, I've got Sammy Walker, and I've got Teddy. And I actually looked at dumping
Sorry,
Sam.
boys, I'll be back in 1 sec. Keep going.
You're right, buddy. I looked at dumping Sam Walker and going to Tanner Boyd. As much as I'm not the big Tanner Boyd fan and wasn't really keen on having him in my team, it was just the fact of when I looked at the Roosters having the bye, what my strategy was going to be then, as to having basically, what is it, about 2.5 mil between those three players that I had, or about 2 mil with those three. I did have Angus at one stage throughout the season, throughout the preseason. It was the same issue. If I've got 2.5 mil sitting there on the pine for a round, what was sort of the strategy and how was I going to fix it? Is it a case this year? And this is where it comes back to old school super coach playing, which is what I really enjoyed and where I was kicking ass at it. But having the buys and the strategy behind that, that's what's really going to trick up people this year. It's great to have 3 guns in your side, but then if they're sitting for a week, are you going to trade those 3 guns out so that you can still keep a 17 decent players on the park? Or are you going to sit those 3 players on your bench for a week? And is your squad depth big enough to cope with not having those 3 guys on your field? Do you just take the hit for one round? I liked your strategy then and your logic of Matto's out for 3 weeks. So then it just happens to coincide perfectly with Angus having the bye in round 4. You can flick him at the end of round 3 to Matto, and hopefully Matto starts on all cylinders. At least then you're not going to lose money because Matto hasn't had a game at that stage, so he can't lose money. But as long as he gets the minutes and gets the points at that stage, I like your logic.
And no one else, apart if they're on from that strategy, would pick Matto up in that first week. Most would watch. So see what happens.
All right.
I like it.
Honourable mention to Nanai as well. Obviously, he had a great year last year, averaging just under 63 points, just under 660,000. Currently owned by 9.6% of teams. As we know, the Cowboys have got a great draw to start. He could go well, but I can't go there. I just don't know. I don't know if he's going to come back up the season that he had last year. To be honest with you, what do you guys think on him?
A lot of negative vibes coming from other news sources saying that, like, he scored tries last year, relying on tries, but like that opening draw kind of reflects that. So if you're going to get him for those tries, you may as well jump on early when you can. Yeah. I'm not spending that much money, but he's probably going to be pretty lowly owned, I believe. I haven't looked at his stats yet, but I think could be a sneaky little pod to have.
Yeah, there's only 9.6% owned at the moment.
I mean, but six of his 21 games, so almost a third, were a 41 or less. So even that's the thing, without the try, his floor's just very, very low.
Oh yeah,
that's what you got to be prepared for.
Yeah. I think the flip side of that though is that he has, like, he's one of the second rowers in the comp that can hit. What did he hit last year? 150, and he did it twice, I think. I mean, admittedly, he scored 3 tries or 4 tries in a couple of games and things like that. So that obviously lifts his average. But, I mean, that's what he's there for. And I think the draw that they've got, I mean, I had him for most of preseason. I moved him out this week, but might go back and go to a double gun second row. But I've sort of moved things around to try and work in with the buys. So, yeah, look, I was really keen on him. A lot of guys are not so keen on him, and that was basically the main reason why I was keen on him. With the draw that the Cowboys have got, the bloke could be anything. It's great to say he had a breakout year, but you've got to remember as well that was his that was his only season. The kicker with all that is, early on in the season, Halem Lukey was looking the better of the 2 front rowers and certainly more workhorse and the gun as far as attack was going. Then he got injured, and at that point, Nanai basically took over from there. So, as far as strike weapons go, if Lukey comes back this season, you might be able to save, as in comes back to the same way that he started last season, you might be able to start with a much cheaper option than Nanai. But yeah, I think Nanai did well enough last season that, well, like I said, he was in my team for most of the preseason.
Yeah, I agree with Dan that I think that if you're going to get him, that you want to start him with that draw in particular, because he'll get a lot of attacking stats. And, you know, he might make you a bit of cash where he can go up to a Cam Murray or another gun, you know, after a few games once the draw gets a bit harder and, you know, he starts to lose a bit of cash. So he's an easy swap out. The other one I want to mention is David Fafita, obviously, as well.
Hold on. Before we go into DFE, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents on What's it
Nanai?
called? I forgot Nanai.
Yeah.
Even Timmy said he did it. He does have the ceiling. He scored that 158. He scored 4 tries, and he did have a couple other hundreds. But even with such a breakout year he got selected for rep duties. He still only averaged 62. So yeah, I don't see it as like everyone else. But yeah, anyway, let's go on to DP, who I'm more keen on.
I think the biggest issue there was he wasn't starting at the start of last season. He was coming off the bench and didn't get a lot of minutes, and I think that made a big difference. And like I said, Lukey was the gun second rower that they went to originally, and it wasn't until he went down where at which point that Nanai started getting the minutes and the game time. So it's a tough call.
All right, Mr. Fafita. We all know what he's capable of. 689, 800. He averaged just under 66 points last year. At a PPM of 0.9. Try scoring machine when he's played right by Holbrook, which we know doesn't happen often. But I have a feeling he's off contract this year. I have a feeling he's in for a massive year this year, especially if he's on that edge that Kieran Foran is going to be on, because I reckon Foran will be the man to feed him a lot of ball out on that side. So I don't think is anyone starting him.
Yep.
Okay. All right. What's your reason for starting him?
So he averaged 65 last year, and the year before when he absolutely burnt me, he averaged 85. So the growth is there. I just think, especially those if you got Nanai, you're better off spending up and going Angus or DP. His ceiling is great without 3 or 4 tries, like Nanai. I understand his role. With the Titans, you never know if he's going to get the full 80 minutes, if he's going to get put to centre. But just his ability to bust tackles, offload, and score from dummy half, and just get 20 points within, or even 40 points within one play is just incredible. So I just think in that second row spot, you're going for those guys with that high ceiling.
The draw's a bit mixed to start. Tigers, Dragons, Storm, Cowboys, Dragons again.
That's pretty good, apart from the Storm.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a cracking draw.
It's but I think Tigers are defensively going to surprise a few teams this year. Okay, come on, seriously. I think having Bateman and Arpap on those edges is going to help their defense. I really do. But someone's going to have to hide Nofo there somewhere. Keep me watch. So, but yeah, look, I get it. Yeah, what about you, Timmy?
Yeah, look, I've got Fafita starting in my team. He was again he was the first second rower that I picked. I just surely for if you haven't listened to our podcast last week and over the last couple of years with the 360 boys, look, I write an article called Fear Factor. He's the first player that I'm already started writing my article for this year. He's just way too scary not to own. David Fafita's the bloke. If you've got him in your Supercoach side, you're just sitting there watching every move, waiting for him to bust, because he will make 40, 50 points in a play in a second when you blink. He just busts tackles and runs over guys for good fun. So he's just way too scary not to own. And that's the biggest issue with Fafita. You've got to start with him, because at any given minute, especially with that draw that he's got to begin with, apart from the Storm, like we just said, there's no reason why he can't hit 750, 800 by round 6 or 7.
Yeah. Dan?
Well, kind of like what Timmy said, if you own him in your team, you want to watch every single run. On the other hand, if you don't own him, you're doing this the whole way. You've got your eyes covered because you're too scared not to own. But
hiding behind the couch.
That's exactly right. He's scared not to own. I think he is. Everyone knows he had the terrible year last year and still averaged more than a lot of second rows. So if that's a terrible year for him. Only way is up. I've got no issue with owning him, like I said, but I just find there's a lot more value in that position. That's why I've gone like all cheap, and I've gone centre wings as my guns.
I will say, just looking, sorry, Tim, just looking at his last 2 games against Dragons, who he's playing, twice in the first few rounds. He's got a 90 and 134 against them his last 2 games against them too. So we all know he's, as we said, he's very scary to not own.
Yeah, he averages 82 against the Dragons.
There you go.
I think the fact it's a contract year for him too. Like he's the kind of player that wants $1 million plus contract. And if he wants to stay at the Titans, like there was already talk earlier in the preseason and late last season that the Titans were shopping him around because of just the price tag attached to him. If he wants to continue on as $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, whatever sort of player he thinks he is, then this year is going to be an absolute breakout season for him.
Yeah. All right, Kai, over to you to go through the meaties for the second row.
I had one more front rower who a few people have thrown to me as a pod in the guns. And I might as well put this to Roscoe, being a Tigers fan. Bateman, what are your thoughts on him coming back? How do you think he'll go?
I think he'll do all right, but there's still no makeup of the team. That's the problem. There's talk he's going to play on an edge. There's talk he's going to play lock. I just want to see how he goes first. I don't think I can't start him, but I'm interested to see how he goes first and what sort of minutes he's going to play as well. You know, if he's playing on an edge, is he going to play 80? If he's playing lock, what sort of minutes is he going to play at lock? There's too many variables there, Guy, for me to start him. But I'm looking forward to see how he goes.
Yeah.
I think too the fact that the Tigers have recruited well, but they've now got a lot of mouths to feed in that forward pack. I mean, there's talk of Alex Twell not even making the 17, and like he's sort of one of the Tigers' favourite sons and has been for a while. And he's had so much promise over the last 3 or 4 years. And the fact that he at the moment is looking like not making the 17, that's pretty huge. So it could be a case of any of these blokes sneeze when they're not supposed to, and they could be out the door. So you just don't know what the minutes are going to be like. I have a bit of a fear that the Tigers might become like the Ricky Stewart roulette with regards to their forward pack. And they might get 50 one week and then get 70 the next week and could be down to 40 the week after.
Well, it's the same with JF and Goey. They're talking about, him playing in the front row this year, whereas I personally think he should be playing lock as well, because that's where he plays his best football. But again, like you said, it's just the Russian roulette, mate. It really is. You just don't know what they're going to do. I mean, there's talk about that Mata, what's his name, Mata Tua or something. His name is
Matamua.
The talk that I'm sure we'll speak about him. But there's talk that he's going to start lock too. So it's it's the unknown. Anyway,
all right. Well, we'll move on to middies. First one on the list, I've got. I don't think we have to spend too much on Luke Garner, 435k. I think as long as he's getting that starting spot, I think he's pretty much a must on that Penrith left edge. What do you all you boys on Garner? Anyone without him?
No, I'm only waiting for that team list, but I think he's the best one for the spot, best one for the 11. Yeah,
I mean his numbers. He's 41 average last year. Before that, his averages were 48, 55, 57, and that was at the Tigers. So. As long as he's getting good minutes on that Penrith left edge.
The only thing I will say about him, is he's that guy that can fill in at centre. So and Panthers are very second row heavy. They've got like Chris Smith on the bench there. They've got Sorensen will fill in second row as well. So if anyone does go down, he will play in the centres, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but he obviously less base.
Timmy, do you like him?
Yeah, mate, I've got him. It's a no-brainer for me. It's what is he, low 400s, and on that left edge with the Panthers. Everyone that's been on that left edge scores super coach points. So it's as simple as that. It's a no-brainer. You got to have him, get him in there.
Yeah. All right, next one on the list, Elise Katoa. This one's a bit more debatable. Again, low 400s like Timmy just said with Garner. He's came onto the scene with a 57 average in his first season. Took us all by surprise. It was only a 0.8 ppm. He did get good minutes in that first season. The last couple of seasons, he's gone a bit down. He's averaged only 40 in 2021, and then 2022 was 39. Funny enough, those ppm last year was at 1. So if he does get lower minutes, he's work lifts. But the main thing that sticks out for me is just some of the minutes in his games he played last year. So he had games where he played 18 minutes, 16 minutes, 24 minutes, 29 minutes. So a couple of 29 minutes. So I think, yeah, he's definitely got a lot more minutes and thus points. So I'm quite keen on him, but obviously I know Garner and the next one I'm going to mention, Hopwood. They're just a bit more sparking of interest. Any of you boys have Katoa?
Look, I haven't got him. I haven't got him at the moment, but I've had him for most of preseason. I actually really like him, and I think him going into the Storm system, Bellyache has this knack of picking up guys that he's seen some spark, and maybe played really well at stages, but then just dropped off for a little while. And Bellyache seems to have this knack of just getting those guys to their peak potential and above. Look, I see Katoa as being somebody like Nanai last season. Down in that Storm system. If Bellyache can get the best out of Eli Katoa, mate, he has got one cracking player. The hard part with him is I really only see him as an 11 or 12. I don't see him, he's not the sort of player I don't think that can go through the middle. So at which point, I don't know, that Bellyache always likes to keep a versatile back rower on the bench and then pretty much runs 3 middles or close to it. So, yeah, look, I don't know. Is he just going to fill that role that Kenny Bromwich has played there forever? So will he get 50, 55 minutes tops and that's about it? I'm not quite sure. If he gets a starting second row gig, I'm absolutely all over Eli Katoa.
Yeah, I don't have him to start. I'm interested to see what they do with him, and I think the Bellamy will bring out the best in him. I can see him getting decent minutes, but I probably won't start him. I'm just for that price. It's an awkward price too to start as well for me. So I'm just going to run with Gardner, and the rest of them will be probably reasonably cheapies after that. So, yeah. But who knows? See how he goes first. He might end up in my team at some stage.
Yeah. I can see Chan as well being a bit of a. I'm not sure what's happening with Chan in the team as well. Whether that actually takes any effect on who starts who in that 11 spot, because they've got Sims there, don't they, as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's not going to matter though. Let's be honest. Sims is going to play half a dozen games and then be injured or suspended. And it's all he's done for about the last 3 years. I'm sure he's a lovely, lovely bloke, but he does not spend a lot of time on the park. He's either injured or suspended or has some kind of brain snap. But yeah, look, everyone seems to be talking up Sims like he's going to be the next big thing at Melbourne Storm. He's not 20, 22 years old anymore. Like he's closer to 30, if not over it. So yeah, look, I don't see the appeal in him as a player myself. But yeah,
it's more with Sims. It's not so much I see him as a player. It's more that he sees himself as a player and he's going to demand minutes, which will affect our other players that we're looking at, like Chan and Katoa.
Maybe Bellyache's got him. Sorry, Roscoe.
I was just going to say, I think Bellamy is going to get the best out of him, as like he does with most other players, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has one of his best seasons this year. To be honest with you, especially on that, if he's playing in that 11. I have him in my starting team at the moment. I probably won't start him, but I have him there as a placeholder at the moment, just as a bit of a pod, to be honest with you. And I'm nearly tempted to go up, but it's very risky though. That's all I can say.
Oh, look, I've got no doubt Bellyache has the ability to get the best out of that type of player. But the biggest issue, and I suppose the flip side of all that as well, is Bellyache does seem to like his boys toeing the line. And maybe that's exactly what Sims needs as well. There's that extra little bit of a discipline to pull his head in. So, look, he could be anything, but at the moment, I just don't see it.
Yeah. All right, next one on the list. This one's quite debatable. I'm not much of a fan. Teague Wilton, 493K. A few people quite like him if he gets Wade Graham's spot on the edge. He did play, I think he's put up a 47 average at a 0.8 ppm, but there were quite a few games where he came off the bench or didn't get the 80. So if he does get that 80 spot permanently, then obviously there's some potential there to PPM of 0.8. But if any of you boys keen on Teague Wilton?
I haven't even looked at him really. Probably forgot he existed until you brought his name up just then, really. So
I haven't either, to be honest with you, until you just mentioned him now. If he does get that spot, then he might be worth looking at. But they haven't got a great draw to start. You know, South, Para, and then Canberra in Canberra. I want to get a look at him first, and if he gets that spot and he start playing 80, then yeah, he'd be definitely one worth looking at eventually, I think.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a play with my side this week when I moved stuff around in the last couple of days after dropping Sam Walker, and Teague Wilton was the one that I actually put into my second row. And it actually left me with 5 playable second rowers with the logic of what's going to happen when these early teams have the buys. So I tried to build more a squad then of 20 players that I could actually play rather than just sort of 17 with then some cheapies and such. So look, Teague Wilton did come in. I'm not really sold on it. However, what I do like is that the plays with Nico Hines going from right to left across the back line then with the Sharks. And I think Teague Wilton could benefit from that, much the same as what Wade Graham has done over the years. They do like to go that left-hand side, the Sharks. Yeah, look, he's undervalued. I've got no doubt he's undervalued. Whether or not he can reach the heights of Wade Graham when he's playing well, I'm not convinced. But yeah, look, I don't know. He should be good for a 60, 65 average. Whether or not he makes any more than that, I'm not sold.
Yeah. All right, a couple of honourable mentions. Adam Elliott, quite popular, 564k. Curran and Barnett, both of the Warriors, I think could both be a watch to see how they are, how their minutes play out down there. And TPJ, always one to watch, about the 500k mark with his minutes and his PPM. But apart from that, I mean, maybe CHN, like you said, if he jags that 13 spot over Horsburgh, he could come into that slot in the 400k mark, but not too much else. We'll go over to Timmy for the Cheapies.
Right, I'll try and get through these nice and quick because I know we've been here for a while now. Look, I've got 4 cheapies that I've looked at. One has really only come on the radar this week. The first one I'm looking at is Jermaine Hopgood. He should most likely pick up that number 13 jersey at the Eels, and by all accounts, everyone seems to think he's just going to tear the walls off the place. So 298k with a current break even of 28. The Eels have got the Storm, the Sharks, Manly, Panthers, Roosters, Tigers. If he picks up that number 13 jersey and starts, should be getting 60, 65 minutes plus. It's an absolute no-brainer at 298k. Roscoe, any thoughts?
I've got him. Yeah, he's definitely in my team at the moment, especially if he starts. Yeah, I think for that price, he's going to make you plenty of cash, especially if he's playing 60 to 65 lock. Yeah, there's not much more to say on it, really, to be honest with you.
The guy's a bit of a tackle busting machine from everything that's come through from junior footy and such. So, look, he's been a player in waiting for a while. Dan, have you got him in your side at the moment?
Yeah, mate, I've even got him on my starting side. Obviously an old Panthers boy. So how many games has he played? I think in NRL so far, not too many. I think. Does that mean he'd be eligible for Rookie of the Year? Because I would put his name down for that pretty quickly. He's a pretty good player, and he's playing that lock role in the middle of the forward. I reckon he'd be a gun.
I think the fact too that Matto's not playing for that first 3 rounds. I think he's an absolute lock and load in your 17 as well. So at 298k, like you're nuts if you're not on him.
He's only played 9 first-grade games.
So he's not.
So
he'll be eligible for the rookie then, I'm pretty sure. So
no, they've got to play less than 6, I thought, wasn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, not too much more to add from me. I think he's a master at 298k. So yeah, and playing your 17.
Right, our next cab off the rank, Ray Stone, 246K with the Dolphins, current BE of 23. Dolphins have got the Roosters, Raiders, Newey, Bronx, St. George, and the Cows. The tough part with Ray Stone, I was all over him at the start of the season. I've just changed him out in the last 24 hours. I'm just not convinced of what his role is going to be. He's been an up-and-comer for a while. He's been floating around a few different clubs. I think he was down at the Eels, but then couldn't get a gig. He was at Newcastle as well? Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't know. I don't know where he's going to fit in with the Dolphins and what minutes he's really going to get. If he comes off the bench, I'm not sure where he fits into that forward pack rotation.
Well, that's something. Presumably, you've got Aiken at centre in the centres, Bromwich and Kafusi on the edges, and Gilbert at 13. So the problem is if he becomes an AE nightmare on the bench. Obviously, Bromwich and Wallace and Nichols and SAS as well, and they also got that Farfum Riley, or the one from the Roosters. I think he was that before. So they've got quite a bit of depth there. I'm just worried about job security and if he gets many minutes.
And he is a bit of a versatile player, but I can't see him taking Cody Nikorima's 14 jersey off him. So I really don't know where he fits. So that's the reason why I've pulled the pin on Ray Stone in the last 24 hours. Ross, you got any thoughts on Stone?
I have him in my team at the moment just as a placeholder to see whether he is going to start or not. If he's not in that starting lock spot, he's not in my team, just purely for the fact that there's just too much unknown. I'm seeing a lot of predicted sides around that has him off the bench a lot, but I don't see him coming off the bench if they've got Nicarima on the bench as well. I don't see it happening, and there's a few predicted teams around that don't even have him in the 17. So if he's not in that lock spot, then he is not in my team. It's easy to not start him and bring him in if he does start for some reason later on down the track before he price rises, then get stuck with him as an AE nightmare. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
Dan?
I'm pretty much taking the words out of my mouth there, Roscoe. I've got him in my team at the moment, and that's because I've seen a couple of predicted teams that have him at 13. But if he's not starting, if he's on the bench at all, which is unlikely, in saying that, yeah, he's, even though he's like a very similar role to Nicarima, you can actually have Nico and him on the bench, I believe, because you got the fact that Stone can play in the middle as well, where Nico is more of a hooker relief. But yeah, still, even if he's on the bench, I'm still taking him. I think it's on the 13 or not.
Yeah. Look, my last couple, I've got Justin Matamua from the Tigers. This guy's only come on my radar this week, and it's more so from me listening to other podcasters and doing a bit more research. Look, he's at the Tigers. He's got a BE of 22. Tigers have got the Titans, Newey, Dogs, Storm, Bronx, and the Eels. I'm going to put this guy in the same bracket as Trey Mooney, my next one, who's at the same price, 234.8, from the Raiders with a BE of 22. Ado, our friend of the show, Adrianosaurus Rex, is absolutely all over Trey Mooney and spruiking him from the rooftops. I don't know enough from both of these boys in Matamua and Mooney to know where they really fit in their teams. There's a lot of talk about Matamua playing 13. There's also talk from Ado about Mooney playing 13. So, look, I don't know. At the Tigers and Raiders, like we've said, it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. They've got a lot of mouths to feed in their forward packs. Are these boys going to get game time from day one? Are they going to play off the bench? At 234K, can you really go wrong with either? But they would both have to be in the 17 at least to get a look in. Guy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, hello. Well, if either of the two, maybe Canberra's got more maybe minutes. If they're at best, I think either of them make the bench. I don't think either of them start. But yeah, like Matamua at the Tigers, they've got Clemmer, 12, and then the Pole and Stefano. They've got quite a bit of depth there. So yeah, I don't know. Again, it'll just be wait for team list, but what do you think, Roscoe?
Oh, if he gets that lock spot, which I'll be very surprised if he does. I mean, the Whisperers come out and said that he's heard rumours that he's going to start lock, but surely to God, you're going to start off and go with your bloody Bateman at lock before this bloke. I mean, he's a gun. I know he has a gun. He's only played. I think he played a total of about 40 minutes last season. 20 minutes, 2 games. One against Parra and one against Penrith. And he looked good for what he showed there. But obviously, I'll only go there if he starts. He's not going to be one that's going to be worth having on your bench because he's not going to make you that cash. He won't play you big minutes. Our Tigers have got so many forwards this year that there's just so much here to feed that if he's not starting, I don't see him getting any minutes, maybe more than 20.
Yeah. And even it's same with Mooney. I mean, Tarpanay plays big minutes. I know Papali's come down a bit in minutes, but they've got Gawler, they've got Forsberg, CHN, Hudson Young also, and Whitehead. They play big minutes on the edges. So,
What they lost? They lost Sutton and they lost Elliott, right?
Sorry?
They lost Sutton and Elliott.
Elliott, yeah, and I think Sutton.
Sutton's gone to the Dogs. So, yeah, another watch, I guess, and see.
Well, that might be some homework for you two boys. Roscoe being the Tigers fan and Dan living down in Canberra. We'll get you
We'll get Dan to go
a bit of homework between now and then. You guys need to go and do some spy work. Hey, here's the thought. Why don't you put a balloon up and just put it over the top of their stadiums and get some footage, and hopefully the Yanks don't shoot it down.
That's a drone, isn't it?
We'll send the drone there, mate.
It's just a weather balloon. There's nothing wrong.
Adding satire to the podcast, gotta love it.
Awesome. I had to get some politics in there somewhere. Awesome, boys. That's it for me for cheapies. Look, I mean, there's a whole stack of other ones. Look, that are all about the same price. You've got Willison at the Broncos, Moaroa at the Storm, the Cardi Party 234.8 as well. Benwood up with Silla. There's been a lot of chat in a lot of other podcasts about BMM. I am not sold. The bloke has been a few different clubs now. He's an absolute plotter. I've got no idea why these guys are talking him up. They must see something that I don't, but the guy is barely a first grader. I've never met the bloke. I'm sure he's a lovely boy, and I don't want to see him at my front door in 10 minutes' time. But by all accounts, the bloke's an absolute plotter. Don't have him anywhere near your Supercoach team. I had him about 2 years ago, and he absolutely fucking killed me. He had dual front row, second row, and I think I put him for one game, and he got single-digit figures. So the only other one that is interesting is Sean Bloor. Sean Bloor is currently in my team in second row. He's a cracker. He's another guy like Udakamano. He's a big unit. If they give him the ball and he's a starting second rower, the bloke will score tries with the new 2 feet behind the line defensive rule. So, look, I'm all over Sean Bloor as long as he stays fit. He's another one that's bit me in the arse in the past because I've had him and was all over him. He got injured at the start of last season, I think, early on. But, yeah, look, if he hits his straps, he is an absolute, could be an absolute keeper.
The problem is the people in front of him, like BMM, he's got more chance to get more minutes. IPAP and Bateman, I mean, they're almost a lot.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to the makeup of that Tigers team. If Bloor is starting, if he can get 60, 65 minutes in second row, I can't see why he can't be a 65 plus Supercoach points per round type of player. So, but that's what I've got. Those guys are all sitting there at the same price of 234.8. Moroa, the only one I think that had dual position in there, but he's a wide berth for me.
Yeah, nice.
Back to you, Roscoe.
Yeah. Dan, now we're going to pass over to Dan, who's going to go through some of the players we've possibly spoken about and some others in regards to who might be some traps and voids.
Yeah, I don't want to use the word trap because I believe a lot of these players I brought up are probably worth getting later on, but not at the moment. So I didn't get to do the front row because we were rushing through there. So I'll just start with the front row quickly, and I'll talk about Cotter. And the only reason I love this guy, and I've said a lot of praise about him. Cotter is a gun, and I just find that their first, I think they was it 4 out of 6 games are in North Queensland. Opened the round with. That's quite hot up there. Whether the coach rotate the minutes like they do with Lolo in the past. They have the Lolo effect. But that could be an issue there with minutes, because one thing we know about Cotter's got a motor, but that heat might really affect him. So it might be a wait and see to see what the rotation looks like at the start of the season. That's the only issue I have with him, and that was the rotation with the heat. Next one I've got, and you guys pretty much proved my point today. You mentioned about 400 Tigers players. So my avoid is Stefano. I believe there's way too many mouths to feed there. A lot of people on this guy. He's owned by 22% of people. I think he's a gun too, but there's so many mouths to feed there now. You got the Sean Bloors, you got the Clemmer's now there as well. You got the 12, he's probably going to miss the team. Then you haven't mentioned as well Pole, who had a great season last year as well. So I think there's a lot of mouths to feed there. They're going to really struggle to get minutes to Stefano, even though he deserves them after the way he plays. And then I've got Luke Thompson. Just going through them quickly, so I'll get your feedback towards the end. I'll just go through them as fast as possible. Luke Thompson, I've got in here, is 512K. Last year, I know it was a rough year, but he had 13 games and only got 3 games above 60 points. And I believe that was due to the emergence or the arrival of TPJ, playing a very similar position role there for him. And I think as well, the other thing you've got to consider as well is the Max King effect. I call it the Max King factor. He had a great season last year and has pretty much earned that spot now in the middle there, which means they could be eating minutes away from Luke Thompson, and also, like you mentioned earlier, the fact that he's probably not very happy at the club. And that's my front row there. My second row, quickly, Lolo 607, and this is basically the same reason that I mentioned with Cotter, is they might be resting minutes when it comes to the heat up there. Those first 6 games. But I'll say now, the first 4 games, so it's North Queensland, Suncorp, North Queensland. First 4 games. So all going to be hot games. So you've got to be careful. They're going to be rotating these forwards to make sure they're rested. But that's the only reason with Lolo. I think he might be at that price, pretty decent value again, as he is every year. And the last one, purely based on price and the mixed up draw, is Hudson Young. 704,000 to buy. Great player, had a great year last year. But the draw up and down, got the Cowboys who can defend quite well. The Dolphins, unknown there. You got the Sharks, another good defensive team. Then we've got Newcastle and then the Panthers. So very up and down draw. I just don't see him going up in money. I think they're playing for his feet. Any thoughts there, guys, on the players I mentioned?
I think you're pretty much on the money there with those, I think. Yeah.
It wasn't easy to find out negatives on these players, because a lot of these players are great players. So it was hard to find negatives. I'm just looking at a super coach perspective here.
As far as Thompson goes, I think he's going to fall into the same mould. Mental block. Now that I've just Aiden Tolman started talking, he's going to fall into that position that Aiden Tolman has had forever. He's going to be that 50 to 60 minute type guy. He'll give you 50 to 60 points, and you can just about bank on it week in, week out. He's not going to give you the 100 points. I can't see him giving you a 90 without about a hat trick. But the guy's going to tackle his ass off all day long. He might give you a little bit in the tack. He's got a bit of mongrel in him as well. But I think if you're looking for a second row where you can put your house on 50 to 60, I think he's probably a good shout. But if you're looking for someone with higher upside, he's just not that kind of player.
Yeah. And also, too, when you guys would have seen, too, that they rotated the minutes between TPJ and Thompson each week. So one was getting the big minutes one week, next minute, the other one was getting the big minutes. So, All right.
I'll be interested to see what sort of impact the retirement of Aiden Tolman has. He's obviously not there anymore, and he was in the same boat as well. They just seem to keep rotating between those 3 guys. So now that he's not there, I'll be interested to see if TPJ and Luke Thompson pick up any more minutes. But, I mean, obviously the Dogs are recruiting heaps, so anything could happen there.
Yeah, but do you think you said Hudson Young was a trap because he was 700?
I try to avoid using the word trap. I thought avoids, because trap, I don't believe trap is what guys are going to let you down. I don't think he's going to let you down. I think he's a great player, but I think I would avoid him at the start.
Okay, so just too expensive, because there's a few like that. IPAP's obviously a great player, but too expensive. Same as Lane, Kuala Matangi, even Offa Hangawi. You spoke about the Tigers with their forward rotation. He had a breakout year last year, and that his price couldn't go near.
That's why it'd be so stupid to take away that lock position from him, because he had such a great year last year in that position. So yeah, I don't know. See how the Tigers go, eh?
All right. Well, we've got a couple of questions on the page, so I'll just quickly rip through them because we are going a lot, been going for a while. So the first one is throw it over whoever wants to answer this one. Is would you start Cotter or Tarpany if you had your choice?
I made my choice pretty clear. I'm pretty
I know
sure.
you made yours.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I've gone Cotter. I know you boys are pretty hard on going the other way, but yeah, look, I like Cotter purely for the draw.
Yeah. Guy?
Yeah, Haas for me.
Yeah.
But I'll go Haas.
Haas. The choice is between Cotter and Tarpany.
He says,
Oh, Tarpany. Oh, well, Tarpany's a lot more expensive, I thought.
Yeah,
Like,
he's like
obviously, you'd go
60K more,
Tarpany.
Yeah.
yeah, Tarpany's at 699.5 and what Cotter's at 623.4. So you can save 75K by going Cotter over Tarpany. But yeah, look, I mean, and then Haas is the happy medium between the two.
Yeah.
Next one is Dwayne's asked, why is Adam Elliott so popular? I don't know who wants to answer this, but for me, I think he's going to play similar minutes to what he played at the Raiders, and he did go well down there. He was scoring pretty well. I don't think he's the worst option to start. I might look to pick him up in some drafts, but I'm probably not going to start him in Classic to see how he goes first. Dan?
What's the hooker rotation going to look like there, you reckon, in the Knights? Because if he's playing some minutes at hooker like he did the Raiders, I wouldn't mind it, actually, because that's where he's getting a lot of his points from. And then he'd come back and then play lock at the end of the game and look pretty sharp. But we've got Brayley there. Who else is playing hooker?
I don't know, because Randall's gone to Titans.
Bailey plays 80.
Yeah. So I just don't see.
They have Kurt Mann. Kurt Mann can play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Kurt Mann will be there too.
So if he's not playing any minutes at hooker, he was never really thought of as a super coach player ever until he started playing those minutes at hooker. So that's all I can see.
So you think that he's not worth it then if he's only playing lock? Yeah.
There's too much value. For cheaper.
Yeah. Thoughts on
I'm going to
Josh
play
King?
devil's advocate there, boys, because I've just brought him into my team in the last 48 hours. I actually really like him. I think the fact of the Ricky Roulette, like we've been talking about at the Raiders, he's not going to have that problem at the Knights. The bloke is going to be absolutely guaranteed 65 minutes plus. And the way that he plays, he's absolute super coach gold. He's a ball playing type forward. He's got a tackle bust in him. He can move the ball around. I don't know. I wasn't over him at the start, but over the last week, I've absolutely I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of listening, and I'm starting to love him. Yeah, I moved him in 48 hours ago, and I think he's going to stay there.
Yeah. Josh King at the Storm. Do we see him picking up more minutes or any improvement out of him this year with the change in their forwards?
I think there's certainly ability there for him. Like there's certainly minutes there for him to pick up. Whether or not that changes his PPM, he's got a pretty high PPM from memory from the earlier parts of last season. But I think now that the Bromwiches have gone and Kafusi's gone, I think there's plenty of minutes there to be had in the Storm's forward pack. It is going to be interesting to see how Bellyache moves those sorts of guys around. But I think Josh King's a bit of a staple in their front row. Well, not just their front row, but in their forward pack now, much the same as Christian Welsh. And I think they'll both hit fairly similar heights. I actually like him. I haven't got him yet, but I reckon if the Storm get off to a decent start, I think it's going to be because of those two boys.
Yeah. Dan shaked his head, so I presume that's a no for Dan.
I know it's probably more of a vibe thing that I go off is the fact that it was like he had a pretty decent year to start with last year and then failed right off the record books. So I felt like he had his second year syndrome midway through last year. So I just think it's the fade's going to keep going away. Like he just showed me, he might start off okay like he did last year, but I can just see him fading off again. But that's just me. I have no evidence to stack that up at all. It's just me going off what I saw last year.
Yeah.
What's he priced at there, Roscoe? Have you got that?
No, I don't. I don't actually have it handy.
Good on you.
We'll have a quick look at it. But I was just going to say the other last question that we've got is thoughts on Nakure and Barnett at the Warriors? There's any? I mean, for me, it's a no because of the unknown of the minutes that they're going to play in the rotation. Because the Warriors have got a lot of forwards there to feed as well, like some other clubs do. It's a wait and see for me to see how they're going to go. I've owned Barnett in the past, and he's been pretty solid without going, massively high. He doesn't have the ceiling. But yeah, I don't. What do you guys think?
I've had Barnett before. I don't mind him, but wouldn't start with him. But yeah, could be one to watch.
Yeah, I like Nakure as a player. I think his PPM would be. I'm assuming he would be quite high, but he is literally that impact player that comes on and doesn't get very many minutes. Usually, and he does a great job at that. His role is he knows that role real well. Does a very good job at it. But if you're going to pick out of any of those, I think Barnett might be the more safer option. But I'm avoiding for the moment.
Timmy?
I think it's always really hard with the Warriors. Their forwards are always so chop and change, and they can make one mistake in a game and then disappear for 3 weeks. Their forward rotation and boys that sit in the naughty corner is just bonkers over there. And I think that's why they've struggled for so long. They haven't had a locked-in forward pack, as in 6 blokes for, since like Buddy Moses was a kid. So, yeah, look, I find it really difficult. I mean, there's been guys talking about Tohu as well, Tohu Harris, and he's not the player that he was 2 or 3 seasons ago. I think a lot's going to be on his shoulders this season, and I think that's going to be really hard for him. So, yeah, look, I think all those Warriors boys are a bit of a wide berth. I like Barnett as a player. I had him in my team at stages throughout the last couple of seasons, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be on the up and up over there. Just a quick thing, Josh King at 459.9. So to put in comparison, 459.9. So he's cheaper than RFM. He's cheaper than Sims. He's similar price to Lukey. Cheaper than Wilton. Yeah, 50K cheaper than Gilbert. So, look, he's not a bad shout.
Yeah.
I think Josh King, if he gets the minutes and plays much like Christian Welsh, they're not too dissimilar in price. I think they'll both go all right. So,
I'd prefer
he might be a bit of a sleeper.
Katoa and Garner are cheaper and Hopgood. Like, I think there's too many options there.
But I think Josh King's role is probably more guaranteed than Katoa, though. And Josh King's only less than 50K more than what Katoa's is.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight. Sorry it's gone on for a while, but there's a lot to go through with the forwards in particular. Next week we'll go through the halves and the 5/8, which will be a lot quicker, obviously, with not being so many options. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks, Dan, for coming on as a guest host tonight. And Guy, thank you to you as usual, and to Timmy.
Thanks, lads.
And
Thanks very much, boys.
and we will see you guys the same time next week. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome.
That's
Stay
it.
safe and be good.